Hi guys, Bossman here. Just doing this video. I thought it was pretty cool. I sort of came across this by accident. So I'm creating an animation in Flash CS6, and I've worked out a quick way or an easier way I found to create a hand with a bit of detail in it. Instead of manually drawing the whole hand, I found it easier just to create these ellipses and use the gradient tool to create the segments of the fingers. As you can see, I've got the gradient with two different skin colors, a light tone and a darker tone. So for portions of this video, I'm just going to speed stuff up just to get you through the whole video quicker and so you can see the whole process. I'll explain in details what I'm doing in certain points. I apologise for not starting at the beginning, but just to explain, I had this an open hand already created. So the main, like the palm and the wrist and the thumb, I already had created. So, and I've just got a gradient on that shape, as you can see, and I've just created these ellipses, and I'm just adjusting the individual points using the sub-selection tool. The shortcut is A on the keyboard for this, and I'm just trying to replicate the reference picture on the right of the screen. So you can see here at the base of the thumb, you can actually see the join of the thumb segment and the palm of the hand. So the way you get around that is using the gradient transform tool, and you just move the position of the gradient so it all blends in, so the thumb segment blends in with the hand and it all looks like it's all one piece. Here you can see the controls of the gradient transform tool. There's essentially 4 different controls that you can use. So one is to rotate around, another one is to squash the ellipse, so squash it from a circle into like an oval shape. One is to change the size, the overall size of the gradient, and the dot in the middle, as you can see I'm moving here, is to move the whole gradient. So at this point of the video, I didn't really know much about the gradient transform tool. I was just sort of playing around with it. By the end of doing this hand, I sort of had it more worked out. So between the rotation that I'm doing here and the actual size, as you can see there, between those two, it appears to change the angle that the light is coming from, so the virtual light that's giving you that effect. So I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos more specifically on the gradient tool if you want to go into it further, but yeah, as you can see, I just played around with it and sort of worked it out for myself. So here I'm just duplicating these fingers, the segments. The beauty of doing the hand this way, using the ellipses, it's easy to duplicate and create fingers and also reposition fingers around. Rather than having, say, a complete drawn hand, it's much harder to manipulate that way. Once you have one hand created, it's quite easy to create different poses or hand gestures just by moving the fingers around, using the free transform tool to change the size or to rotate, and also using the gradient transform tool to reposition the gradient. So here I'm basically just manipulating the fingers, changing the positioning, so I'm sending this one back backwards, so I want it to be behind this other finger. I've also played around with the stroke. That's something you can play around with to suit your own preference. Change the color or choose not to have a stroke at all and just use a gradient, and then later on you can add detail such as shadows, as I'll explain later on. So this whole hand took me about 24-25 minutes to create, bearing in mind that I already had an open hand created, which may seem like a long time, 25 minutes just to create a hand, but it is a bit more detailed than just say a drawn hand. And as I said, once you've got everything done, it's so easy to create different poses. So here you can see I'm manipulating this gradient with the gradient transform tool. So as you can see, if you want the light, so I want the light to appear as if it's coming from the top. So as you can see here, this adjustment really gets me the effect that I want and the angle that I want, and then it's just fine tuning it. So in addition to this video, I'll also put up the complete video in real time in case you want to see all the fine details. So you'll notice the line through the center of the gradient transform tool. If you have that pointing directly towards the object, you're going to get more of a pinpoint of light as opposed to a flat section. So as you can see, because the finger segments here were so short, you could see where there was sort of dips between the fingers. So basically I was just stretching the fingers out just to make it the finger look thicker and like it's all one piece. And I decided to remove the stroke from these fingers, and as I mentioned earlier, I just added the detail in later to get the details such as the shadows and the creases in the fingers and such. So here I'm just using the pencil tool, which might sound a bit silly given that I've gone to so much detail creating all the gradients and that, and I'm just using the pencil tool. It's actually quite messy, but for my animation, a lot of my animation wasn't that detailed anyway, and for these hands they weren't going to be close-ups of the hands anyway, so just using the pencil tool was good enough just to give the effect. So here I'm just fine-tuning, adjusting the alpha of the lines just to make them less prominent. So we're nearing completion of the hand here. If you have any questions, please comment. If you like this video, please like or subscribe to the channel. Plan to have more content coming out in the near future. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. Thanks for watching.